Fight Night, Debate Night Biden versus the World. Editors note the opinions in this article are the authors, as published by our content partner, and do not necessarily represent the views of MSN or Microsoft. Well, you can't say the Democratic debates were entirely dreary. On Wednesday, everybody looked forward to the meeting of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, who had tortured him so effectively in Debate 1. And instantly controversy. Go easy on me, the two of them then instantly laced into one another over health care. This idea is and everybody picked up the theme. The whole point, what we need are politicians that actually have some guts on this issue, Julian Castro said in an immigration argument, looking at the former vice president. I have guts enough to say his plan doesn't make sense, Biden retorted. It was certainly way more lively than the first night of Democrats, where the crowded stage made everything a lot harder to stay alert. Viewers on CNN, the moral of both nights, really, was that there had to be a one-on-one fight. Warren versus Sanders, but behind it all was the looming specter of you-know-who. While Biden was the nation learned that his pick for Director of National Intelligence was an extremely conservative congressman whose greatest claim to expertise was 6 months on the House Intelligence Committee. And up yelling at the president also signed a bill funding care of 9/11 responders and took the opportunity to mention his own alleged role post-terror attack. And I was down there also, and I am not considering myself a first responder, he said modestly. But I was down there. The man was looking out a window from his luxury quarters uptown. And bragging on rape, and even that wasn't true. Okay, enough. We're thinking about the winner of the first night was Elizabeth Warren. We're not going to Bernie Sanders was the other top first night performer. And definitely the one problem with Sanders, throughout his presidential running career, is that he basically has one speech. It's about income. For instance, at one point in the Tuesday debate, Sanders was asked about his call for free public college tuition and forgiving all student loan debt. Of course, before I get into that, he responded, the major issue that we don't talk about in Congress, you don't talk about in the media, is the massive level of income and wealth inequality in America. Then he went into and which of the obscure candidates did you like the best? John Delaney. We've still got 10 more debates to go. The next round then comes the full moon. Who do you think the Times is committed to publishing to the editor? Wednesday. Like to follow the New York Times opinion section on, and
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that.